Hey there, this is Atul from team K21Academy, and in this video, I'm going to talk about one of the interview scenarios raised by one of our client. Let's call her Miss B. And I'm taking, initially I was planning to record this video just specific for her, but looking at the quality of the question and the depth and so many things I can teach in this, I thought I'll probably record it in a generic term, but pointing to her, but also equally possible to share with you guys as well so that it can be helpful for others who are preparing for any interview, primarily on cloud, whether it's like this particular case. I'll give you the context of the question and the program and so on, but then it can also be used for any other cloud as well, like AWS, Azure, Google, Oracle, or DevOps containers, Kubernetes, or data and so on. The primary, this was for mainly for AWS as a role for AWS solution architect, where the individual, she applied for a job, and she got an assessment as a part of her interview, was or resume was selected, but as a part of exercise she was given a scenario, and she had to speak or create a presentation on scenario. So let me explain you and what happened and how you can handle in such scenario as well, and how to deal with handling interview in this scenario. So first, she was given a interview scenario where the scenario was that a customer has now been introduced to you because they are having issues in maximizing their investment into AWS. So they customer have migrated to AWS, but they are not maximizing the investment they've put in into AWS because of some issues. They're expecting issues because of operational teams due to change in technology landscape, because they were initially working on-premise team, and now they have to that team has to work onto cloud, and their role, you are the person, or she was applying for this job as a solution architect, and uh, the challenge they were facing was, first of all, the technology changes, the deployment of the service were due, or sorry, the slow because of out of date process with no visibility on platform, visibility of the platform running cost, how much will it cost. So, from a customer's point of view, the only information customer had was that they have migrated approximately 500 plus virtual machines of production environment, 200 plus dev VMs, and 200 plus test VMs to the cloud, and created production test environment. Now, the team has the following assumptions based on early conversation with the customer, that originally AWS migration was done to require data center exit. The client wanted to data center exit and they wanted to migrate, and that's why it was migrated. Now, the majority of landscape on the cloud is made of a VM, which is lift and shift, which means lift and shift as a part of the migration program, is you lift a machine and deploy as it is onto the cloud. And there are different ways to lift and shift, which I'm going to cover here in the program. Now, so they have a mix of ISVs, independent software vendors, and there are in-house applications and the operating system, different operating systems was there. Now, also very little automation currently in place, other infrastructure or DevOps function, which means there is scope of improvement in terms of automation using infrastructure tools, infrastructure as a code tool like Terraform. You can use Terraform, or there's another tool like if you're going specific to AWS, which is CloudFormation, or if you're going AWS, which is a Azure Biceps. Sorry, if you're going for a Microsoft Azure, then you have Azure Biceps or ARM templates. Now, primarily preferences most of these customers have is to use Terraform, which is infrastructure as a code, and then using DevOps functions like CI/CD for configuration management, deployment, automation. There are different tools which I'm going to cover as well. So as a part of this exercise was create a brief presentation. So it's a different style of the interview where you are going as an architect. You need to prepare a presentation where focus on should be on effort to resolve the issues. The most important is to resolve the issues. Plus, then what is the best practices approach for analyzing their current state and creating a strategy to further accelerate their adoption of the cloud. Now, if you look here in the context of they were saying visibility and the cost. No, they don't know how much cost they are incurring. Deployment is slow. They are also teaching and training to the team. Also out of process out of date processes. There's no automation. There's no CI/CD. So you can write and you can take advantage on that. So uh, so uh, yeah, so current state and creating strategy for further accelerate their adoption in cloud. And the presentation should be restricted to 30 minutes, which is good. And platform owner, it should be presented to platform owners as well as senior stakeholder level, which means senior level they want the platform owner from point of view. I'm concerned as a platform owner. No, so this is what you need to do. This is the requirement. So the first an important thing is think from the person who is basically attending this presentation. They are platform owner and as well as a senior stakeholder level. So platform owner wants to know and make sure they are in control of that entire platform. And the senior stakeholders probably they want to know about the costing, it's being used properly, and those things. So this is the context you need to prepare the presentation. And if you're in a situation like that, first an important thing is you come from, and if you're part of the training program, you should be coming to and asking for some help and guidance in such scenarios. So what I've done is first I've given a presentation slide. If you're preparing, then maybe you can begin with the title slide. Maybe 8 to 10 slides are more than enough, and spend 2 3 minutes depending on what the slide is. Some slide might take 5 minutes, some might be 2 minutes and 3 minutes depending on. And then you can every slide you can keep asking and engaging clients and saying, hey, what do you think about it? Now, I'll also give you some of the tips which I'll giving you. Be confident and your go as an authority. Most of these clients, when they're asking for your help, they're not knowing those things. That's why they're coming. So you need to be confident. You should be, uh, also guess based on this requirement what the questions might be coming: pricing, costing, automation, troubleshooting, training and empowering the team, all those things which you think coming to mind if you are at client place, what you would might be looking for. So begin with a slide deck with like optimizing it was investment for enhanced operations and cost visibility. That's what I can think of from what they were looking for. Also subtitle, maybe you can say strategy and best practices, because that's what platform owners want to know, how to reduce cost and so on. And then put your name as architect and say what is the AWS architect, and then client name, because they were looking for expecting AWS architect. Again, this could be Azure architect, it could be multi-cloud architect, it could be DevOps engineer and so on, and the date on which you're presenting. It's good, nice to have these things so that this is how the professional environment work. Then maybe you can begin with introduction, and then brief scenario you can give in the context of migrating of 900 plus environments. And what you can do is you can pick some images of a VM, three environments you build: test, dev, and prod. Now, if you want to go much more deeper, you can say accounts, because there is a concept of accounts in AWS. I'm assuming you put it to one single account for now, but you can say, hey, you can ask some questions. If you really want to become smart and say, you can ask some questions and say, hey, yes, to the client, and say, oh, can I get some more details about, are these a single account or multiple accounts? Also, do they have a network topology? Like these VMs, where are they deployed and so on. Also, these are public, private facing, and a lot of things you can ask to make it. Um, you can go back to the client with these questions so that they know that okay, you are thinking and you have a thought process behind this. Also, because automation, you can ask, hey, are you using infrastructure as a code, or are you already using cloud formation for automation, or Terraform, and for config management are you using Ansible and things like those, and you're using Puppet or lot many tools that. And also what tools and systems you're using for patch management, for example, for VMs, and making sure that you're secure, costing is covered, and a lot of things you can do. Ask them, that will help in preparing the strategy for the client. If they say, oh, we don't know right now, or you have to come up with your own mind, and then you can begin with clean slate, and you can give some presentation like that. So then you tell that these are the things that you're going to cover, which I'm not going to repeat it, but say key focus areas, best practices, strategy for cloud adoption, acceleration, and so on. Now you begin with operational. So there are 6 pillars of best practices, or AWS has, and inside the program we cover these six. I think it's a operational excellence, it's a costing, security, availability and disaster recovery, and so on. There are 6 pillars, not on top of my head, but costing is one of them as well. So write down all those things, and then begin with and say what is the current state, and then map out the existing deployment process in order to deploy, how they're doing, how do you managing, these once deployed as well. How do they do the costing, which means shut down dev and test environments if they're not in use? There's an automation we have. We have a strategy of one of the labs. I think let me go and show to the project which I'm going to go and but automatically use Lambda function to stop services when they're not used mainly in the night time or daytime and so on as well. Then from an operational excellency point of view, training and upskilling, this is very, very important. You can go and say, I have a training strategy. We can bring these guys and maybe build a training program for these to uptake on this. Also certification program, if they've not done, especially AWS solution architect, so that give an idea about. Also keeping a regular workshops, showcasing what's possible, a lot of automations you can do, and so on. And then tools. I'll talk about the tools as well that are available on that. I think I've already covered that. You should also be suggesting them AWS CloudFormation or Terraform. And again, inside the program, I'll show it to you what Terraform tools or what things you should be doing before you going onto this. So you can suggest those things as well. Also, there is a AWS System Manager for operational management. So talk about the services like which are available out of the box where customer don't have to pay anything extra. So AWS System Manager. Then for deployment, DevOps, which this is where you're going to use CI/CD methods, pipelines, AWS, and for deploying the applications on these VMs, you're using CI/CD tools like code build, code pipeline, code deploy, and so on. Also, automated testings of um, testing and deployment process, automating all those processes as well. Infrastructure as a code, I've already mentioned. Version control and peer reviews for infrastructure as a code templates. These templates are important, and then also documentation on those templates as well. Now, monitoring and logging is important. If they're hitting problems, they need to know. They need to make sure that they have logging, monitoring, observability is key points on those things as well. Also integrate with CloudWatch, which is a real-time monitoring. And then maybe create a ELK stack, Elastic Logstash, and Kibana, centralized logging with CloudWatch and AWS OpenSearch services available there. Now, you're in terms of costing, there's a cost management tools, cost monitoring tools, give them about detailed cost analysis, and then set up budgets and alerts. And budgets and alerts also already on all those things which are covering or already covered inside the program, so use them. Um, Also using trusted advisor for the trusted advisor, AWS trusted advisor comes out of the box, which will give you the cost recommendations, cost savings. Again, there's a lab on the program in AWS. Make sure you perform that as well. Now, this was already talking about automatic scheduling of shutdown of non-production environments. There's a AWS instance scheduler is there. Also, we also have, you can use Lambda functions and you can customize all these things as well. Also, in order to save cost, there are the reserved instances and saving plans that you can suggest to the client as well. Also, those uses patterns and yeah, so run the analysis and say what time, how much CPU and memories are used. Are these optimally, or can you, for dev and test environments, you can reduce the cost as well. And you can talk all those things, couple of minutes on each of these. Now, in terms of there will be cloud adoption, governance and security, they've used lift and shift, but then you need to start talking about is containerizations and microservices and containers, and then container orchestration tool like Kubernetes and EKS and Lambda functions, serverless, Fargate, and so on. Those you need to be talking about as well. And then a roadmap. Then you need to also give them new future roadmap because they've just lift and shift, but what benefits they can do. So things like short-term goals, which can be done in 0 to 3 months. Also, uh, training and upskilling, cost analysis, some quick wins, setting up the CI/CD pipelines, and so on. And then you have a more long-term, which is 6 months to 12 months, for more governance and security principles, continuous optimization and improvement. And then finally, you can conclude with key points. You can recap and then schedule these regular meetings like these with key stakeholders. And finally, you can ask for the question answer, open the discussions floor and say, hey, do you have any questions? And then any things, and that's how you should be sounding confidently, and you should be speaking all these things confidently. Most of the time, I think in my view, confidence is the most important thing, because for two reasons. First of all, when you're going for the interviews, most of the time the person who's taking interview they have challenges they don't know, and that's why they're hiring you as an expert. So be confident on these things as well. Make sure you do some hands-on lab. So now, because let me go and take you inside the program or show it to you. So when you go for AWS job oriented or AWS, theory and hands-on lab, this is where you will have uh, going through all the things that I've mentioned about, um, that the terminologies or things that we were talking about, like CI/CD pipelines, AWS Cloud Formation, other tools like which is these six pillars of excellence, including cost management, setting up the VMs, automatically building them, shutting them down, all the monitoring tools, logging tools, all those things are covered inside the program. So make sure you go through them. Apart from that, because once lift and shift is done, next should be maybe moving more towards serverless, or doing containers and Kubernetes. So there's a lab, or there's a program for Kubernetes on AWS implementation. Follow that. Also, Terraform in this case is important, key. So you have already Terraform for AWS. So maybe do one Terraform. Or just go through these videos will give you enough context about how to use Terraform to build network, virtual machines, automations, and so on. Similarly, there will be a module about Ansible bonus class. Follow that as well. And if you to go deeper, there's a Terraform certification as well, that will go much deeper into Terraform certification. You can suggest those things to your client and say, maybe build and say we can have set up a training environment, or training to the team on with this Terraform certification, AWS certification, and so on. I think, this is more in-depth Terraform certification, depth training program I was talking about. Um, so that will give you some ideas. And there are some project work and labs that I'm going to think. For example, automate this AWS cloud doing VPCs, load balancers with Terraform. Automating, this is for Azure, but let me see a few things on AWS. Let's go on these some projects, further projects. So these projects, when you do, and you can suggest these projects to your client in the context of, let me see. So there's a migration which is on from, this is for Azure. We have something similar for data AWS. One second, where is my migration on AWS? Yeah, create a and deploy three tier on AWS using Terraform. This project will help. Something similar. I think we have also how to shut down the VMs automatically. That's one. Oh, migrating monolithic application to microservices. This is another thing which is on a long-term strategy for 6 to 12 months. Once lift and shift is done, how do you convert some of these applications from a monolithic application to microservices? Also, this was CI/CD, which is a CD pipeline AWS deploying using, or maybe suggest them using some of the platform as a service like Elastic Beanstalk, deploying a 3-tier architecture, suggest these things as well. And uh, Oracle database, like maybe database migration. No, yeah, this is talking about how to manage EC2 VMs using a Lambda function, which means automatically stop them, start them based on the time frame. So this is something, once you know this, you should be definitely confident to prepare something like this. Now, uh, you can also prepare for some interview questions. So based on the job description, or based on the scenario in this case, we could have given you this presentation, or we ask for if you um, some help like this. But also, when you have a job description or scenario like this, ask for the interview questions. Say what interview questions I can expect based on this. Again, this is based on what I would be asking if I'm a client side or if I'm an interviewing, but client may have different interview questions. So this is just to give a high level idea about. Um, so things like how do you access current skill level and operational team in managing AWS environments? So how would you judge or access someone's what strategies will you implement in upskilling operations team in AWS technologies? This is for if you're managing, becoming an architect or managing the team like this, or what tools you'll be using, recommending for improving operational excellence. So make sure you're familiar with system manager. or to utilize to manage an automated operational task. Now, all these tools and services which we are talking about, I'm talking about, there is a we covered already covered inside this AWS program, job-oriented program, and also there will be hands-on lab. If you can't find it, hands-on labs, come and speak to the team. Then for deployment related CI/CDs, how would you set up a CI/CD pipeline using accelerated deployment? Infrastructure code, have you worked on AWS Cloud Formation? Have you worked on Terraform? If not, do some labs so that you can at least talk in the interviews as well. You should also be talking about monitoring and logging. This is where you will be using CloudWatch or alerting. There's an open search tool. There's a CloudWatch logs. There's a ELK stack. There's a project on ELK, how to set up an ELK stack on AWS Cloud. Also, cost monitoring. How do you use AWS Cost Explorer so that they to analyze and manage cost in AWS environment? Do a lab for this to make it clarity. You also have setting up budgets, alerts. This is, I think, first thing we do, and cost controlling. So how do you do that? Perform resource utilization. Uh, do some lab on using a trusted advisor for cost saving opportunities. Also, scheduling the automatic shutdown of environments using AWS Instance Scheduler. I don't think we have a lab for right now, but ask my team if you want this lab, and we will create a AWS Instance Scheduler. In fact, I'm going to ask them to create it now, even before you're telling, so that should be coming into your plan as well. Look at reserved instances. What are create some machines with the reserved instances, at least for development environment, you can use them as well. Then from governance point of view, how do you do the best practices from security point of view, identity access management, automation, continuous delivery, continuous integration. Then you can do some strategy related questions, roadmap related questions. I'm going to give you all this. I'll probably below this video, I'll link this video, this guide as well, so you can read and do some behavioral questions as well. Team collaboration, problem solving, troubleshooting, logging, and so on. Now, in this case, unfortunately, the feedback was not as I was hoping. But if you go and perform that, this is again, first of all, um, most important thing is, first of all, big congratulations. This use these opportunities to learn something. Every failure will teach you a lesson. So it's not a failure in my definition. That will give you and taking you to identify what the gaps are and how do you resolve those gaps, and then move so that in next interview you become better. We have one of our core values, 1% improvement every day, and that's what I crave and I aim towards. So take this as a positive, constructive feedback and work towards where the gaps are. So I'm going to read out these some of these things, and so that I can help and focus on. So the presentation was she appeared quite nervous. Okay, so this is something, as I said, first and most important is go confident. Even if you don't know something, mention that, hey, because 90% of the interview, I think, runs on confidence. In my view, my gut feeling is every time, even if you don't know, be confident, because the person who's interviewing, assume they know less than what you know. Because that's why they're interviewing. That's why you are there, going as an authority, going as an expert. Always believe in that. Always believe in yourself. So be confident. And even if you don't know something, politely say, hey, I don't know, but I can quickly find it out and come back to you. Very, very easy. Uh, okay. Uh, may not be easy, but then once you repeat, once you see, it'll become second nature to you. That's what happens to me. Technical knowledge was adequate, but at least good that at least adequate. But then if you want to at least behave like, or talk and speak like, confidence, and a lot of these things, I may not be an expert in this, but when I talk these things confidently. I Right now I'm speaking very fast, but with client I'm going to go slow and speak a little bit slower than, or at least almost 30-40% slower than pace I'm speaking right now. Uh, but some of our responses were not quite as a level which we have expected. For instance, understanding of observability and metrics was limited. So in this case, which is a good point, usually a lot of clients don't give the feedback, but is a good here. So I think there is a labs. Go and focus on observability and metrics, and troubleshooting and logging. Those labs. Ask my team those labs for those labs. And she hesitated at certain architectural decisions like containerization. So there is a containerization, how to do. I've already shown you monolithic to microservices. Containerization, we have a module called EKS, ECS, Docker and Kubernetes implementation on AWS. Work on those labs as well. And it's okay. Um, so come and speak to team. Now, for those who are watching this and listening this, and every time an interview happens, come and speak to us and give us the interview questions so we can tell you and prepare you for the next time if those similar questions come. Most of the time you can sense now. If you look at now, and I'm going on from last 25 minutes, so based on this, you probably know now how to prepare for the next interview, or you will at least come to us. Similar to that, when we see the interview questions, how to respond to those interview questions, I'm going to talk about as well. However, her grasp on deployment or CI/CD showed both conceptually and understanding of some practical experience is good, which is a positive, very good. Familiar with YAML? YAML is yet another markup language which is required for if you're doing containers and Kubernetes, or also YAML is required for if you're doing CI/CD. YAML is also required if you're doing AWS Cloud Formation. So good understanding of YAML is good. Cloud Formation is good, but not in Terraform. So it's always good to have Terraform. That's why we've already added Terraform for AWS, a dedicated lab, so you understand inside the program. So do that as well, because a lot of customers these days expect Terraform. If possible, do the certification as well on Terraform to give you clarity and give you the client confidence as well. Uh, Her limited experience, particularly with the Terraform, yeah, I think it makes sense. Depth of response lead us to decide against, which is totally fine. Don't get disheartened. I fail, at least in early stages, I fail most of those interviews, but every time on the interviews, I kept learning new things and prepared for for the next level. Good and positive thing is they're giving you feedback, which is good. I'll leave it with me now. Next time an interview comes like that, share the job description so we give you some sample questions, prepare you as well. Now, based on the feedback, this is I always say that each feedback you should be learning. So based on this feedback, I'll be working on observability tools like monitoring, logging. So you focus on Amazon CloudWatch. And within CloudWatch metrics, there's a CloudWatch logs, alarms, dashboards going. There's another service called AWS X-Ray. So focus on X-Ray for distributed tracing, because uh, when you're troubleshooting, one of the common problem is that data moves from one tier to another, from a load balancer to the web server, to the web server, to the backend application server, from application server to the database server, and there's a firewalls. All those things are there. So X-ray will give you this distributed tracing. So do some labs on X-ray. CloudTrail, which is if there are APIs, how do you track those APIs? So logging and event history on the logging. It was config for configuration management compliance, OpenSearch for log analysis, Lambda for serverless functions metrics, and then key metrics and best practices, EC2 metrics, network IOs. If you have a databases, RDS metrics. If you have Kubernetes and containers and Kubernetes, ECS metrics. If you're using serverless Lambda, that metrics. Application metrics, how does request counts? There's a lot of things you can do as well. And then I'll go based on these. I'll prepare some interview questions like CloudWatch. How does CloudWatch works? What are the key metrics you can monitor using EC2? So ask from my team about CloudWatch Lab. So how do you use CloudWatch Lab to monitor EC2? We do a lab so that you understand. Also discuss some default metrics that are available out of the box, like CPU utilization, disk read, IO ops, network, etc. as well. And like that, go through these interview questions, and if you need any help, let us know. Do some practical hands-on labs on these all those things. And if you can't find them, just make my team accountable. We always constantly live and breathe by 1% improvement every day. We'll work on these labs and prepare you these labs as well. um, do some real world scenarios as well, and I'll link these documentation links, white papers, for those as well. Prepare on observability, monitoring, and so on. So I hope that makes sense. And don't get disheartened. This is part and parcel. That's why we are here. But please do share the interview questions. Do share what we asked in the ticket, same ticket. And this is for Miss B for you. And for anyone like you on the program, share the questions so I can prepare the answers for you. And if you're part of other program like Azure or Google or Oracle Cloud or DevOps or containers or Kubernetes or data on cloud, data on AWS cloud, data on Azure cloud, and if you're undergoing similar thing, um, you know that, let me give you what you should be doing. Oh, by the way, other thing is What I should other thing you should be going to and looking for some job help, go to the classroom and then go for interview and job preparation. Go to this module, make sure you go through these two steps, step one and step two, how to prepare for resume job serve, and go through this document as well, which is given here. This is a 43-minute video, so focus on that video and the guide as well, very, very detailed guide. And then go through some interview, how to search for a job. Inside that video, I've also given in, if you're not getting interview calls, how get help. If you're getting interview calls but not able to clear, like in this case, how do you get help? How do you ask? But give me the interview questions. There is also how to apply job wise, sorry, how to apply for jobs specific to your country, specific to level you are. And then if you need any help, which is you can't find it, just ask again for specific to yours. We also run mock interviews on a weekly basis. So go through these mock interviews, or you can put your name for the mock interview. Like you could, like if there's enough time, we usually need a couple of like days to prepare and bring an expert with specific to the kind of interviews you are looking for. In this case, like for example, AWS and a scenario based situation as an architect. So go through these interview mock interviews. Also on a weekly basis, I run, I or some other expert run uh, clinics where you can come and ask any questions. So recording of those will be available as well. Now, also common interview questions, AWS like that, we have some interview questions. I'm going to add this one as well here so that you can see and prepare how to prepare. Also, there'll be some sample CVs, resumes based on your background. And if you can't find, if you want to go different, if you need more, just ask. We'll upload some more sample CVs so that, or resumes, so that you can build your resume, or you can take some inspiration from these as well. Also, uh, what happens is if you're applying for the interviews and you're not getting interview calls, that means there is a challenge with either your resume or with your LinkedIn. So make sure that you're not making mistakes like these. These guys were initially hitting problems in their getting interview calls, but once we reviewed the the resumes, they started getting interview calls. So there are some common mistakes they do. So go through them, these all these reviews, and see you're not making those mistakes. And once those fixed, and if you still don't get a interview calls, send the job description with the resume. I think, in fact, in this document, I've covered all these things. What to do if you're not getting interview calls? What you need to do? Just focus on, just ask me on about that, and raise a ticket. So we can, with the job description, corresponding to the job, share the job description and associated resume, so that I can review uh, why you are not getting interview calls and what changes you need to put in your resume. Don't lie, don't fake anything, but write things that are important as per the job description. Also, share your LinkedIn profile, because it could be your resume is good, but LinkedIn is missing, or LinkedIn has a disconnect between your resume and so on. And then also we have some AI prompts for increasing your job chances. And like that, please go through this. And I'm going to add this one as well because I've done a very detailed analysis. So and more of these things like coming, as I see more and more people are coming with the challenges with interviews. You're not able to clear interviews. Uh, Make sure you share the um, what do you call it? You share the um, interview questions so we can give you the feedback and next time and work on give you the more extensive hands-on labs, and we constantly improve on this. Give me the feedback. Did you enjoy this video? Any constructive feedback that you have, or any suggestions you have for Miss B or for anyone else who's watching that, leave that under the comment section below video as well. With that, this is your host Atul from team K21 Academy. We have tons and tons of success stories, and we will not leave you till you get the result which we promised, which is either getting a job or making sure you get support on the project, or you clear the certification, whatever your objective is. With that, Atul signing up. Thanks for sharing these challenges. That's how we learn. And don't get disheartened. This is just part and parcel. This will happen, but it'll make you better person. So if you have similar requirement, or if you have questions like these, leave them as well, or as a part of the program, or open a ticket, and yeah, so that you can make us accountable. All the best and good luck. Take care.